Joining the taxi industry provides support through training like this. Information from Taxi Council and a high level professionalism that rideshare services can't beat. Passengers have a choice. If we raise our service and safety levels, we'll increase our share in this huge market. The taxi industry supplies approximately 175 million passenger journeys in New South Wales each year. There are 28,000 taxi drivers and over 6,000 taxis. In today's training, we'll be looking at 4 particular things that you guys will have to understand throughout driving a taxi. In session 1, we'll be looking after the safety aspects. In session 2, you'll be looking after yourself. In session 3, looking after the business. And in session 4, looking after your passengers. Looking after your safety. GM Cabs, as an authorised service provider, has obligations to maintain a safety management system. The sorts of things that the provider must do that relate to safety are ensure cars are safe to drive, provide duress alarms and security cameras, keep records of incidents, have a risk management plan in place. It is your responsibility as a driver to follow all these reasonable directions and procedures regarding what the service provider management system requires. GM Cabs, as an authorised service provider, has the obligation to provide a safety management system and must show a duty of care to others, including you, the drivers that work for them. You, in turn, have a duty of care to yourself, passengers, and others. It's all about maintaining the focus on safety. As a driver, what things may constitute a duty of care to yourself, for example, could include things like getting enough sleep, driving safely, fatigue management, using safe lifting practices, ensuring safety equipment is working. The safety aspects regarding a passenger would be driving safely, ensuring seat belts are worn, free from harassment, and an obligation for safety regarding to others would be the general public and other people around you. Your duty of care. This includes provisions of services to children, people with disabilities or illnesses, either mental or physical, and those under the influences of drugs or alcohol. For example, there is a case study whereby a taxi driver has been found negligent when a person has suffered injury or death after leaving the taxi, whereby the taxi driver was found to have an impact on the outcome. For example, in Queensland, an intoxicated person was put in a taxi to be delivered to his home. Upon arrival, the passenger fell from the taxi and was left at that location by the driver, and sometime later was killed by another car. The driver in this case was deemed negligent in his actions because he had a duty of care to ensure that his passenger was home safe. In addition to obligations of duty of care, authorized taxi drivers must render a reasonable assistance to all passengers. Next one. Risk management. According to the Act, you should ensure health and safety by taking into account and weighing up all relevant matters, including the likelihood of a hazard or risk occurring, and the degree of harm that might result from the hazard or the risk. Eliminating or minimizing the risk where reasonably practical. Let's take. In the event of an accident, if anyone is injured, use your mobile phone to contact 000 immediately. Contact the base and advise them of the accident. If nobody is injured, but a tow truck is needed, you must report the accident by calling the police assistance line on 13 14 44. Accident report date, time and location and weather conditions, details of other vehicles, make and model, registration number, owner's name, address and phone number, insurance company, details of damage, name, address and phone number of any independent witness or witnesses, name, address and phone number of any passengers in the taxi, name, address and phone number of passengers in other vehicles, name, number and station of police attending. All this information is necessary in the case of an accident. If a passenger needs assistance, it is important to pull over safely, check with the other customers, are you okay? Notify the base, they will instruct you, call 000 if required. As a driver, it is important to notify your service provider when a notifiable occurrence has happened. These occurrences can include things such as when an ambulance or hospital treatment has been required, if a vehicle fault or damage is enough to prevent the vehicle from completing its journey or shift with or without the passenger on board, complaint to the police containing allegations of sexual assault, indecent exposure, actual assault or physical threats or other intimidation, driver charged with a major offense. All these are included as notifiable offenses and need to be told to your network provider. Looking after yourself. What to watch out for. Driving a cab can be a risky business. Main hazards include fatigue, drugs and alcohol, anger and stress. Fatigue is one of the most common contributing factors to motor vehicle accidents. Handling of fatigue. For GM cabs, the maximum hours you can operate a vehicle is 12 hours within any period of 24 hours. You can have regular amounts of sleep, take regular breaks, don't drive if you're taking medication that specifically prohibits you driving, and exercise regularly will help manage your fatigue. Managing anger and stress. It is important to manage anger and stress throughout your driving career. Some signs that you could be either reaching a point of anger or stress include things like tense muscles, yelling, smashing things, clenching your fists, or your heart rate could rise. Managing. There are some serious health effects resulting from frequent chronic anger and stress. Such things as heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, irritable bowel syndrome are just some of the few health problems associated with stress and anger. Stress and anger is simply just not good for you. You need to be able to recognize the signs, respond, and then restrain and relax. Preventing anger and stress. It's important to use good communication skills such as please and thank you. Treat people as you would want to be treated, and try not to take stuff so personally. Get enough breaks, get enough sleep, eat regularly, and avoid negativity. Think ahead, what will you do? Drugs and alcohol. For taxi drivers that have blood alcohol limit, it is very important to stay under 0.02 legally. Some prescribed and over-the-counter medicines should not be taken when driving. Make sure that those medicines that you do take are not on these lists. Illegal drugs must be avoided by all taxi drivers. There is zero tolerance for the use of alcohol and illicit drugs while driving. The authorized service provider, GM Cabs, has the right to require drivers to participate in a drug or alcohol test at any time. They can search a taxi and search a driver by asking them to empty their pockets or open their bags or jackets to look for drugs or alcohol. Looking after the business. As a taxi driver, you can actually get fares via two different systems. One is via the rank and hail system, and the other one is a booked service, such as things like Rido, a booking app service provider, which affiliates with GM Cabs. The rank and hail system is a huge benefit for you as taxi drivers, as taxis are the only ones that can pick up people from the street legally. Explaining the fares to customers. All taxis have the following information visible to any passenger in their actual taxis: the fare schedule, any additional tolls, any fees and charges, that is airport charges, differential pricing that may apply due to the time of day that the journey is undertaken. How and when should you communicate this information is important. All right, 2 minutes. Taxi Transport Subsidy Schemes. This scheme provides support for the New South Wales residents who are unable to use public transport because of a disability. The subsidy looks like this below. It covers 50% of the total fare with a maximum subsidy of $60 per journey and is claimed using a travel docket. Looking after your passengers. In your job, you simply cannot avoid having to deal with people. Every day you come in contact with people from all walks of life, different religions, different cultures, needs, opinions, genders, ages, tourists, locals, and so on. It does not matter where a person is coming from or who they are. What matters is your interaction with them and that they are in your taxi. What your passenger wants. People using taxis want a driver who follows the rules and regulations, charges the correct fare, is friendly and polite, drives safely and directly to the destination, is neat and clean, and doesn't discriminate based on the size of the fare. At the end of the day, you have to remember you're a professional driver. This sticker is in all cabs. The sticker lets passengers know their rights, and so you should understand what's on it. Yeah, I'm just going to read it. Best practice for good service. Avoid sensitive subjects like politics, religion, same-sex marriage is probably a good idea. Look for ways to stay agreeable. Remember, you don't need to have the same opinions as your customers, but you do need to provide a service. Don't talk about personal or sexual matters. Know a conversation starter from a personal comment. For example, where are you from? Also understand that this conversation starter is not intended as a racial slur. Treat everyone with respect, whatever their backgrounds or circumstances. Discrimination might mean not picking them up, being rude, making comments, charging them more than the required fare. Harassment. Harassment is a conduct that is uninvited and unwelcome and humiliates, offends, or intimidates. All forms of harassment can lead to loss of authority to drive and even being charged by police and imprisoned for serious offences. Sexual harassment is the most common form. What does sexual harassment mean? Sexual harassment can take several forms, including telling smutty jokes, leering or staring, making suggestive remarks, displaying offensive pictures or publications in the cab, interrogating or asking questions of someone about their sexual activities or private life, touching someone unnecessarily or inappropriately. Obviously, as a cab driver, you should not perform any sexual harassment towards the passengers or put up with any sexual harassment from them. As a professional driver, it is completely unacceptable to behave in this way towards a passenger. Harassment, particularly sexual harassment, can be threatening and intimidating to the victim. As a taxi driver, you must avoid any form of harassment. Bullying. Bullying is repeated and unreasonable behavior towards someone or a group of people that may risk their health and safety. For example, spreading malicious gossip or lies about another person, damaging other drivers' property, or using standover tactics, being aggressive or intimidating towards another driver. Bullying in GM cabs will not be tolerated. There are some things you should probably avoid saying, and these are probably obvious to a lot of you. However, take into account that these are just examples and should not be said. Such things as, do you have a boyfriend? Are you a virgin? Are you going to a gay bar tonight? You look really pretty in that dress. What does your husband think about you working late at night? So where are you heading tonight? What is your religion? Heading to the airport? Going somewhere nice? Sorry, I'm not having that kid in my car. These are just examples of things that should not be said, and I'm sure there are a lot of others that you should know and already apply by. Thank you for participating in the training session for GM cabs. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact the people below. There are other links as well associated with further training for becoming a GM cabs driver. Please follow these links and watch the videos for further information. Thank you again and enjoy the journey with GM cabs.